Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into a truly fascinating piece of intellectual history. We're looking at how traditional Eastern philosophies didn't just, fade away when they crashed into the modern world. They actually adapted, evolved, and answered back on their own terms. I mean, it's the ultimate question, right? How do you modernize an entire society without completely losing its soul? When the wave of Western modernity hit East Asia, it was a massive shock to the system. But the response wasn't just to copy the West. Instead, we see the rise of what scholars call autogenous modernity, which basically means a modernity generated from the inside out, using traditional tools and worldviews to build something totally new. Today, we're comparing exactly how two major philosophical movements in Korea achieved this, while taking vastly different paths to get there. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. 1. Paths to Eastern modernity. 2. Heaven. Talents versus realms. 3. Earth, flow versus order. 4. Humanity, equality versus harmony. And 5. Synthesizing autogenous modernity. Starting right off with Section 1, Paths to Eastern Modernity. As you'll see here, both Donghak and Daesun thought sprout from the exact same traditional East Asian roots, but they form very different ideological trees. Donghak represents a path packed with revolutionary energy and this fierce, driving demand for equality. Daesun thought, on the other hand, takes a different route entirely. They focus on an integrated, highly systematic worldview that's aimed at cosmic harmony. They are both modern, but their blueprints for a modernized society literally couldn't be more different. Moving right along to Section 2, Heaven, Talents versus Realms. What's really fascinating here is how these two schools totally updated the ancient concept of the cosmos. Donghak stuck with the traditional three talents, heaven, earth, and man, but focused really intensely on their attributes and their harmony to build a foundation for human equality. Daesun, however, fundamentally restructures the whole thing. They introduce the Samgae, or three realms, the heavenly, earthly, and human realms. And crucially, they introduce a distinct, substantive divine realm. So it's a major shift from just looking at the qualities of the universe to actually mapping out its structural entities. When you break down these structures, Donghak pushes this concept of Cheon-o-chan, which means heaven beyond heaven. It's this expansive, almost boundless idea. Daesun counters this with strict precision. They aren't just looking beyond, they are managing what is already there. Their framework involves the insight and precise adjustment of the 9 heavens. It's an incredibly systematic, almost bureaucratic view of managing the cosmos. And this brings us to their differing views of time and progress. Donghak is kind of looking backwards to go forwards. They have this concept of a road first Chen, which is a return to a golden age. It's essentially a recreation based on the legendary era of Ya and Shun. Daesun, though, they look completely to the future. They divide time sharply between the past and the post-heaven era, which is sparked by a divine incarnation. For them, modernity is all about the creation of heaven after heaven, a total, future-oriented shift in how we view the world. All right, Section 3, Earth, Flow versus Order. So when we talk about Earth here, we mean the natural world and how it actually operates. Donghak believes in Qihua, which translates roughly to vaporization or gasification. It's the belief in the organic, effortless, natural flow of energy, or qi. Basically, nature just does its thing. Daesun uses a totally different metaphor, tiao li, which means cooking or tuning. Think about it. You wouldn't just throw raw ingredients in a pot, walk away, and, well, actually, scratch that. You definitely wouldn't do that and expect a gourmet meal, right? Cooking requires law, order, sequence, and super precise adjustment to get a specific result. And this brilliantly illustrates how they both took the traditional yin-yang and 5 elements framework and modernized it. Donghak reinterpreted yin and yang to expand on their boundless heaven beyond heaven concept. Daesun, meanwhile, insisted that all 5 elements absolutely must be fully equipped and balanced, emphasizing the total harmony of the system, and that includes the divine realm. So the crucial point here is how they treat the element of earth itself. In Donghak, earth is respected as a vital part of the natural organic cycle. But in Daesun thought, earth is massively elevated. Because their universe requires cooking and structural order, they see the earth element as the ultimate connector. It's like the physical grounding wire that connects heaven, earth, and humanity into one practical working system. Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, Humanity, Equality versus Harmony. For Donghak, everything culminates in the concept of In Nai Chan, which profoundly translates to man is heaven. Just think about how explosive that idea is for a second. If God exists within absolutely everyone, then all humans are fundamentally equal. This wasn't just some quiet spiritual belief, it was a loud call to action. This human-centric concept became the ideological engine for collective revolutionary action, most notably the Donghak peasant movement. Their entire goal was to help the nation and comfort the people by realizing this equality right here on Earth. Daesun, on the flip side, operates on the principle of Haewon Sangsang, meaning resolution and coexistence. They believed the world was broken, not just by inequality, but by all these accumulated resentments across the three realms. So their modernization strategy wasn't a revolution, it was cosmic harmony. They aimed to resolve these deep-seated grievances to achieve a working harmony between gods and humans, basically repairing the structural order of the universe from the inside out. When you put human agency side by side, you see this stark contrast. Donghak embraced collective revolution, guided by a somewhat passive, subjective mystery, the idea that it is like that even though it is not. Daesun, however, demanded highly active, practical human agency. They operated on the principle of Songsa Je-in, which literally means success depends on people. For Daesun, humans aren't just participating in a natural flow, we are the essential workers required to practically build the new world and solve real-world problems. Section 5. Synthesizing Autonomous Modernity. Okay, this is definitely your ultimate screenshot moment. To quickly summarize the symmetrical comparison we've been tracking, in heaven we have Donghak's revolutionary drive for equality versus Daesun's establishment of the three realms for systematic creation. In Earth, it's the organic flow of vaporization versus the logic and law of tuning. And in humanity, the collective revolution of man as heaven versus the practical problem-solving harmony of gods and humans. But here is the absolute biggest takeaway from our sources today. Despite these massive differences, with one pushing for a radical leveling of society and the other building a highly structured cosmic bureaucracy, both philosophies successfully achieved autonomous modernity. They didn't just adopt Western paradigms to modernize. No, they dug deep into their own traditional ideas of yin-yang, the five elements, and the relationships between heaven, earth, and man, and they completely re-engineered them to answer the shock of the modern world. Which leaves us with a pretty massive question to consider for our own lives. When our modern world faces huge, disorienting shocks, whether that's technological, social, or environmental, which framework do we reach for? Do we need the organic, disruptive, revolutionary equality of Donghak? Or do we need the structured, systematic, practical harmony and problem-solving of Daesun? It's an incredible piece of history that gives us two totally different lenses to view our own future. Thanks so much for learning with me today on The Explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.